Looking for a unique online gaming experience? Well, Golden Nugget's online live dealer games are changing the way people play online in New Jersey. Broadcast live from an exclusive studio at the Golden Nugget Atlantic City and streamed directly to you, the player, on your smartphone or your laptop, Live Dealer creates a true casino floor experience online. The dealers even have their own unique personalities, talking to you as they deal the cards. It's almost like being in the Golden Nugget in Atlantic City.
And as long as you're within the New Jersey limits, you can play from wherever you happen to be or on the go. Tablet, phone, or desktop, wherever you are, you can enjoy the Live Dealer experience. Play Golden Nugget's online Live Dealer today in real time, 7 days a week, now from 3 p.m. to 3 a.m. Blackjack, roulette, baccarat, all live in real time on GoldenNuggetCasino.com.
Get started today at GoldenNuggetCasino.com and take part in the newest and most unique online gaming experience a casino can offer. Golden Nugget's online live dealer, truly the next evolution of online gaming. Must be 21 years or older, New Jersey only. Problem gambler, call 1-800-GAMBLER. Welcome to another weekly installment of Turnpike Sports. I am Dave Weishuttle, along with my co-host and producer, Doug Weishuttle. Doug, hey, how you doing?
I'm doing good, ready to go. So without further ado, we've got our normal segments of the injury report this week. We've got our normal Turnpike Sports police blotter. So without further ado, to get involved with the show, email us at info@turnpikesportsradio.com. You can call or text us at 609-512-5910. That's 609-512-5910. And you can follow the show on Twitter and Facebook, both the handle at Turnpike Sports.
And then I'm going to have a great interview. Look, we've all heard the New Jersey sports betting case. It's going to be in front of the Supreme Court in early December. So to make sense of it all, we have an internationally known scholar, an author, a professor, basically the best gaming attorney in the U.S. Nelson Rose.
I think he's probably one of the smartest guys on the planet.
Oh, absolutely. What an incredible legal mind. And look, just because it's a gambling case doesn't mean it doesn't affect other issues confronting the law right now. So he's going to go through that with us all, and he's going to make sense of this highly complex case. And then we're going to have our pick section by our vedic astrologer, Simon Chokoisky.
Fantasy pick segment.
Fantasy. Oh, you know what? I made a little cash with him this week. I took some of his advice and had a great week in my fantasy sports picks. So stick around. We'll be right back with more Turnpike Sports. You know, ever since we started this show, people have been asking for advice. Usually it's what team to bet on this week. You got the Patriots or Steelers, Chicago, Detroit. Well, let me tell you this. Where you're betting at is just as important as who you're betting on. So that's why I tell people to go to mybookie.ag. Use promo code PIKE, P-I-K-E, for up to a 100% deposit bonus. There are a lot of online sports books out there. MyBookie.ag is the only one that gets my stamp of approval, and you know I don't give that out lightly. To get my endorsement, I've got to personally use them, and that means they have to be the best. And MyBookie.ag is by far the best sports book I've used. The rep is rock solid. They do 100% cash bonuses, so off the bat you're making money for doing nothing. And they have the fastest payouts. Seriously, just 2 business days. It's no different from betting in a glitzy Las Vegas casino, but you can do it right from your smartphone. Go to mybookie.ag to place your bets and tell them I sent you by using promo code PIKE. Get over there and get the best odds anywhere.
And welcome back, everyone. This is Doug Weishuttle with your Turnpike Sports Weekly Injury Report. Well, we've had another week in the NFL, and 2 more quarterbacks have gone down. Arizona Cardinals quarterback Carson Palmer will miss at least 8 weeks after suffering a broken arm on Sunday, while Miami Dolphins quarterback Jay Cutler suffered multiple rib fractures in Miami's win over the Jets. Over in Cleveland, Browns offensive tackle Joe Thomas ended his streak of consecutive snaps when he tore his triceps muscle during the game versus the Titans. Thomas's 10,363 consecutive snaps is believed to be the longest such streak in NFL history. Thomas's recovery time is expected to be 6 to 8 months. In the NHL, the Las Vegas Golden Knights have lost their second goalie of the year. Malcolm Subban is expected to miss a month of action due to a lower body injury suffered during the Knights' win over the St. Louis Blues. The Knights previously lost starting goalie Marc-Andre Fleury due to a concussion earlier in the season. And finally, Boston Bruins defenseman Adam McQuaid is expected to miss 8 weeks with a broken right fibula, which occurred while McQuaid blocked a shot on goal during the Bruins' loss to the Golden Knights last week. This is Doug Weishuttle for Turnpike Sports. Come back next week, and in the meantime, let's be careful out there.
Welcome back to Turnpike Sports. Boy, Doug, there's some sad news that came out of the Major League Baseball front office today, that the announcement of the death of pitcher Roy Halladay. Incredibly sad.
One of the 4 aces of the Philadelphia Phillies World Series teams.
Absolutely. Well, great pitcher for Toronto Blue Jays, great pitcher for the Philadelphia Phillies.
He was one of the greatest pitchers of basically all time.
Just a great athlete. You hear about his workout regimen. It was absolutely amazing. He was literally the first guy into the stadium and the last guy to leave. I mean, his preparedness for baseball was amazing. And from all accounts, if you followed him after baseball on Twitter, he really seemed to be enjoying his retirement. And it's so sad. Our condolences go out to his family. You know, when something like this happens, we're from the Philadelphia area, so we best know him from the Philadelphia Phillies because we watch them more. You think back of the perfect game against Florida, the no-hitter against the Cincinnati Reds, and I think since 2009, he's had the most complete games, so he was such a workhorse. And
everybody liked him. He was one of the most well-liked players you'd ever want to see in Major League Baseball.
There was a interview with Charlie Manuel, and he said he led by example. He wasn't a big talker, but, everyone in the clubhouse followed his lead. He was one of those great leaders. And, everyone in MLB and in the media has been very respectful, very, very cognizant of, what the family is going through. And then there's this moron, this jerk in Boston Sports Radio, which, by the way, we're not going to say his name because these guys say these crazy, off-the-wall, insensitive, outrageous things just to get attention. So we're not going to say his name.
In any situation like this, there's always going to be some idiot in another market, an outlier market, a smaller market than where things happen, like Philly, New York, a big market. This guy's in Boston. It's a lower market. It's a big market, but it's still a lower market. These guys, all they want to do is try and get ratings, try and outshine whatever else is going on in the nation, especially on the national network.
For those of you who don't know, this jerk up in Boston Radio said, well, he was flying this small plane, and wow, I guess he deserved what he got, which is absolutely crazy. And begrudgingly, I will give him credit because he did come up and apologize on the air, but still, he shouldn't have said it in the first place.
Well, it's one of those things, guys out for a ratings grab, especially what's going on with the industry up there. It's all being broken apart. Everyone's trying to save a job, trying to save their shows, trying to do all that stuff. Well, that's not a way to save a job. It's, I don't even know if he's getting ratings or not, but whatever. Let's change gears. Let's get to my favorite part of the show, and that is, of course, the Turnpike Blotter. And welcome to another edition of the Turnpike Sports Police Blotter. As always, the Turnpike Sports Police Blotter is brought to you by BeanGenius.com.
Love Bean Genius.
Have some of the best coffee in the country delivered right to your door when you subscribe to Bean Genius. And now get 10% off your subscription when you sign up using BeanGenius.com using our promo code PIKE, P-I-K-E. Blew the read there a little bit, but I'll say it again. Sign up, get 10% off your subscription when you sign up at BeanGenius.com using our promo code PIKE, Bean Genius, the smart specialty coffee subscription service.
I like the way they use computers. I mean, you pick a coffee, they put your name in a database, and they make suggestions based on some algorithm that they have, and they give you suggestions on what kind of coffee you might like.
It's actually almost a combination of Pandora and Netflix for coffee.
Oh, okay. Well, I
Look at
wouldn't
it
have
that
put
way.
those two together, but okay, thank you, Doug. What do we got for the police blotter this week?
Well, we have a story that's been circulating around the all the networks. This is a developing story. It seems Leangelo Ball.
Okay. Which Ball is he?
He is the young brother of Lonzo, the son of Big Mouth Lamar.
Okay.
He was with his...
Is he the third Ball or the second Ball?
He's the middle ball.
He's the middle Ball, Okay.
He's the extra testicle, I guess.
Okay. I wasn't going to go there. I was going to let the audience fill in that joke, but...
I took care of it for him.
You took him down that road.
Oh, I know. Well,
okay.
hey.
What did he do?
Well, Ball and two of his UCLA teammates are facing up to 10 years in prison for being arrested in China. One of the worst places to commit a crime,
Wow.
by the way, especially if you're a foreigner.
Wow.
They were arrested for allegedly stealing from a Louis Vuitton store near the team hotel. Now, UCLA and Georgia Tech are over in China for a goodwill tour.
That's not showing goodwill.
This is where
Allegedly.
Yes.
I guess we got to say allegedly. They were in a... Louis Vuitton is handbags, right? It's handbags,
Well,
luggage.
there's other accessories there, whatever you want to call them. I don't know too much about what else they sell, but...
I guess wallets. I guess... I don't... Any report on what they were...
Well, that's the thing. They're
allegedly trying to steal?
They're not even charged with shoplifting yet.
What were they charged with?
Nothing yet. Because under Chinese law, anyone who's arrested can be detained for 30 to 37 days before they're even charged.
Okay.
Now, here's the kicker. Once they're charged, China has a 99.2% conviction rate, so they're screwed if they get charged with shoplifting.
Wow.
Now, there's a chance they can get a lesser charge, but it all depends on who's negotiating on their behalf and whether or not they can get out of this or whatever. I think
any comment by the Chinese government?
Nothing.
Nothing.
They're pretty quiet. I mean, it's one of those things where the team has said they'll investigate the situation. They're not going to play this weekend for the game that they're supposed to be playing.
I think that's a good move.
It's a great way to open the season for college basketball.
Yeah, right.
So we'll have to keep an eye on that.
I'm getting my brackets ready already. What else we got?
Well, we have the University of Kentucky punter Matt Panton.
Punters rarely get into trouble. Kickers in general rarely get into trouble.
Well, this is an Australian punter playing for University of Kentucky, and I would think that he would never have this happen to him because he's Australian. He was charged with public intoxication. He was allegedly found unconscious on the street at an intersection following a game.
He was in the street?
No, on the sidewalk.
On the sidewalk.
Near an intersection.
He
was just found unconscious.
Number one, he's incredibly stupid, and number two, incredibly lucky he didn't fall in the middle of the street.
Well, that was why police were called.
Well,
I mean, I guess if he was further away from the intersection, they wouldn't have called the police or whatever. But the police found him with watery eyes, slurred speech. He was unable to stand without assistance, and the strong odor of alcohol was found.
Okay.
So they hauled him in.
All right. Well, hey, slurred speech. He's Australian, though. But
that's what I'm saying.
They made that distinction, or
that's what I'm saying. Australian. Public intoxication.
Oh, wow.
You would think he'd be able to hold the beer.
Well, okay.
They got that kind of reputation.
I'm just talking about whether the police thought it was a drunken accent or an Australian accent.
Punters get tired. He punted 4 times in the game. So
okay.
maybe he was celebrating the loss to Vanderbilt.
Oh.
Usually we'd celebrate a win, but he's celebrating a loss to Vanderbilt.
Well, whenever you lose to Vanderbilt.
Anything to help not remember the situation.
Okay, will that do it?
That's it for the blotter today.
That's it. Okay, stick around. My interview with I. Nelson Rose coming up next on Turnpike Sports.
Welcome back, everyone. This is Doug Weishuttle with your Turnpike Sports Weekly Injury Report. Houston Texans rookie quarterback Deshaun Watson suffered a season-ending injury when he tore his ACL during a non-contact drill at practice during the week prior to Week 9. However, several reports suggest his knee may have been initially injured during the Texans game against the Seattle Seahawks in Week 8. Tampa Bay Buccaneers quarterback Jameis Winston will miss at least 2 games with a shoulder injury. Watson suffered what is being called a sprained AC joint in his throwing shoulder. The injury occurred during the Buccaneers game against the New Orleans Saints, and backup Ryan Fitzpatrick will start in Winston's place. According to multiple reports, Alabama linebacker Sean Dion Hamilton suffered a fractured kneecap in their win over LSU this past weekend. The senior linebacker underwent surgery and will miss the remainder of the 2017 regular season and possibly the postseason. Since this is also Hamilton's final season of eligibility, if he does miss the postseason, his college football career could be over as well. In the world of golf, Henrik Stenson stated that he's been slowed by a rib injury the last 2 weeks and that his status for the upcoming final 2 events of the race to Dubai remains in question. Stenson plans to have an MRI to determine the extent of the injury. This is Doug Weishuttle for Turnpike Sports. Come back next week, and in the meantime, let's be careful out there.
We'll get back to the show in a few moments, but I just wanted to take some time and tell everyone about Bean Genius, the smart specialty coffee subscription service. Bean Genius sells freshly roasted coffee from some of the best independent coffee roasters in the country. They feature over 2,000 specialty coffee blends, all at your fingertips at beangenius.com. Here's how it works. Head on over to beangenius.com and take their palate profiler test to find out what coffee best fits your taste. Then select from a variety of subscription plans. Every subscription comes with free shipping, and delivery can even be scheduled for once or twice each month. And based upon your review of each coffee blend you try, Bean Genius actually learns your individual taste preferences and then suggests future coffee blends for you. And now you can get 10% off your Bean Genius subscription when you use our promo code PIKE at checkout. Bean Genius offers a variety of subscription plans to suit any coffee lover's needs. Subscribe with Bean Genius today and start enjoying some of the best tasting coffee around. And save 10% off your coffee plan with promo code PIKE. Looking for a unique online gaming experience? Well, Golden Nuggets online live dealer games are changing the way people play online in New Jersey. Broadcast live from an exclusive studio at the Golden Nugget Atlantic City and streamed directly to you, the player, on your smartphone or your laptop, Live Dealer creates a true casino floor experience online. The dealers even have their own unique personalities, talking to you as they deal the cards. It's almost like being in the Golden Nugget in Atlantic City.
And as long as you're within the New Jersey limits, you can play from wherever you happen to be or on the go. Tablet, phone, or desktop, wherever you are, you can enjoy the Live Dealer experience. Play Golden Nuggets online Live Dealer today in real time, 7 days a week, now from 3 p.m. to 3 a.m. Blackjack, roulette, baccarat, all live in real time on GoldenNuggetCasino.com.
Get started today at GoldenNuggetCasino.com and take part in the newest and most unique online gaming experience a casino can offer. Golden Nuggets Online Live Dealer, truly the next evolution of online gaming. Must be 21 years or older, New Jersey only, problem gambler, call 1-800-GAMBLER. Welcome back to Turnpike Sports. So soon, the U.S. Supreme Court will be deciding one of the most important gambling cases in recent memory. That is whether New Jersey will be allowed to offer sports betting in their casinos and horse tracks. So to make sense of this important case, we have with us one of the best gambling attorneys in the country. He is I. Nelson Rose, and he is an internationally known scholar, author, professor, lawyer, and an expert in gambling law. And by the way, he writes an amazing blog entitled Gambling and the Law, and we're lucky enough to have I. Nelson Rose on the phone. Nelson, thanks for joining us.
Well, Dave, thank you for inviting me.
I think last time we spoke, I'm going to start off the same way. I'm a lawyer sitting here in New Jersey, and we're talking about this case that will never die. It's in my local papers, it's on my local news. But for people around the country who are not familiar with the facts of the case, can you give an overview of what has occurred so far?
Basically, the people of New Jersey voted for sports betting. They amended the state constitution, and then the legislature passed the enabling law. The problem was there is this federal statute from 1993, the Professional and Amateur Sports Protection Act, so everybody calls it PASPA, that says a state can't legalize sports betting. The states are stuck with whatever they had in 1992. So the state legalizes it, and the NFL and the NCAA sue them. And the first case, the sports leagues win. And the judge says, hey, this federal statute, PASPA, is constitutional, and it says you can't legalize sports betting, period. Then, this is really good lawyering or strange lawyering. The lawyers in the legislature, particularly Senator Ray Lesniak, say, well, if you read this statute really carefully, it says we can't legalize it or regulate it. Why don't we just eliminate all the laws against sports betting in New Jersey? Which is a weird way to go, but it kind of follows the statute. It just says you can't legalize it, it doesn't say you can't decriminalize it. So they pass a law saying there are no prohibitions on sports betting as long as you're in a racetrack or a casino. And that then goes to court, and the judges have a terrible time with that, and they start kind of stretching to get it. But they said, yeah, you still can't do it, New Jersey. PASPA says you can't change the law. We don't care that you're not really legalizing it. You can't even change your laws. You can't even make something legal, eliminate the criminal laws against it. Goes up to the Court of Appeals, and they say basically the same thing. And then the big surprise, the U.S. Supreme Court decides to hear the case. And the U.S. Supreme Court does not hear very many cases. It certainly doesn't hear gambling cases. In fact, my take on this is a really, really important case, and it really doesn't have anything to do with sports betting. It has first to do with medical marijuana, because there's a federal law that says states can't legalize marijuana. Well, 43 of the states have medical marijuana, even if it's not very common. More importantly, it could be even bigger. When can the federal government, if ever, tell a state it has to keep something illegal? This is a really important case because it's going to draw a new line between the power of the federal government and the power of the states.
I know that's what I wanted. That's what I really wanted to get into. I know the media has been labeling this the New Jersey sports betting case, but for people in the legal community, it comes down to an issue of states' rights versus the power of the federal government. And when we talk about that issue, I guess we're going to have to get into the 10th Amendment. What has been some of the arguments on both sides with regard to the 10th Amendment and how it affects New Jersey's ability to offer sports betting or decriminalize sports betting?
Well, if you look at going back in history, the states were basically the colonies. When they won their freedom from England, they were little independent countries. And they decided we're too small to survive on our own, so we're going to form a new United States, plural. We're going to be states and united. And we're going to let the state have the power, for example, to make treaties and have the military. Because, if you're in Rhode Island, you don't want to try to have your own army and navy. So they created this United States. And for, the first 100 years, everybody understood, the federal government is supreme, but it's a government of limited powers. If you look at the Bill of Rights, the first 10 amendments, they are limitations on that federal power. No, it says, for example, the government can't infringe freedom of press. The government can't impose religion. And the 9th and 10th amendments, which aren't even really necessary, the federal government has, if it isn't given in the Constitution, then the people have the power. If it isn't given in the Constitution, then the states have the power. So if this case 100 years ago, certainly before the Civil War, everybody would have said, you got to be kidding. The federal government is telling the states what they can and cannot do. What happened was first the Civil War. And what people don't realize, Abraham Lincoln, during the Gettysburg Address, for the first time said United States as a singular. Instead of the United States are united in their wish to do something. He said the United States is a government, a government of the people, right? All of a sudden, it really became clear. The United States is a single government, and the states are underneath it. But still, for another 100 years, we had states making their own laws. For example, if a state said blacks and whites could not marry, that's okay. If the state said that you couldn't get an abortion or have birth control. That's okay, too. And then, starting in the 1950s and into the 60s and 70s, the U.S. Supreme Court and Congress started saying, there's got to be some limits on this. Like, you have to allow blacks to vote. You have to allow people of different races to marry. I mean, think about it. It wasn't that long ago. That was only in the 1960s that they overturned those anti-miscegenation laws and said that blacks and whites could marry. And there are still definitely people in the South. I know there was a marriage a clerk who would not give, still today thinks it's against his religion. Well, the answer is, sorry, that issue is settled. The U.S. Supreme Court has said that there are certain things a state cannot do, like discriminate against its own citizens. Well, now we've reached the point where, is there any limit on that? Can the federal government, and it's so funny, it's a sports betting case, can the federal government require a state to keep sports betting illegal? We know a federal government cannot, the federal government can overrule a state making it a crime for blacks and whites to marry. The federal government, it's unconstitutional to make it a crime to have consensual homosexual acts in the privacy of your own home. Okay? But can the state actually require, can Congress require states to keep something illegal, to keep sports betting illegal, to keep medical marijuana illegal? And it's an amazing case. It's going to, now, they might avoid the issue, but if they don't avoid the issue, it's going to change the relationship between the federal government and the states.
Talking about the dynamics between the states and the federal government, a term that not a lot of people know about has come forward in this case, and that term is commandeering. Now, I've been a lawyer for over 20 years. I've never used it. I've talked to other lawyers. They've never used it, and it seems like a very rarely used legal theory. What is commandeering, and is New Jersey using that idea effectively to further their case?
I think they have made a mistake by digging up this obscure doctrine. I had never heard of it either. And apparently in the history of the Supreme Court, there have been only 3 commandeering cases. And that's where the federal government commands a state to do something. The problem with that is the cases they're regulatory cases. It's where the federal government has told a state that they have to regulate something. I would have gone with a different word. I would have gone with federalism, which is in fact, the catchphrase is our federalism, which is that we have this unique system. We have a federal system and a state system, and there are limits on the federal government, just like there are limits that the federal government can make limits on the states. I don't know if you caught the Bill Maher show like about a month ago. It was wonderful. He was doing a routine about, hey, we in California don't want you telling us who we can marry. We know who we want to marry. We want to have 2 lesbians marrying on the beach in Santa Monica. And he's using the same arguments that the states' rights, particularly the Southerners, were using in the 50s, in the 60s. You can't tell us who we can marry. You can't force blacks and whites to marry together or even let the states allow blacks and whites to marry. So it is an important question. When can the federal government tell the states that they can or can't do something.
Why do you think New Jersey went with the commandeering argument? To me, it seemed like a desperate argument to use. I mean, the federalism argument seemed more logical,
right,
more steeped in the law instead of commandeering.
I think and I've run into this before. What happens in law school is you read a whole lot of cases, right? So they tend to not even look at statutes and Constitution. But the main problem is when you're fighting a case, you're looking for a precedent. You're looking for something really specific. I remember when I was practicing law in Hawaii, I had a case where a scuba shop accidentally killed somebody by putting their intake on the air tanks were near a car exhaust.
Oh.
So yeah, right. So I did a search for scuba diving death cases on the computer, right? I mean, that's how specific we get as lawyers. Mm-hmm. On the other hand, I had a case in Hawaii that ended up going to the Supreme Court that dealt with whether the states had the right to take the land. It was leased land, 99-year leases. Most of the land in Hawaii is leased land. And could they then say, look, the concentration of land ownership in just a few hands is dangerous, and the people who have built houses should be able to continue to live on the land when the lease is up. So people were getting into all these tiny little questions, and I said, this deals with the issue of property ownership, which you don't really see laid out in the Constitution. You look for little things like, okay, you got to be compensated. And I looked at it and said, no, the United States government was built on the idea that people could own private property and the government couldn't take it away for no reason, or just because they think they have a better use. They can't take my empty car sitting in the driveway and give it to someone who has a better use. I mean, you can't find that in the Constitution because it's so basic. And we won. We won at the Ninth Circuit, and we ended up winning in the U.S. Supreme Court, Midkiff versus Tom. This is the same issue. Don't go with commandeering, which nobody has ever heard about. Go with the issue. The states have fundamental power to protect the health, safety, and welfare of their residents. It's called the police power. That power cannot be taken away by the federal government unless there's really, really a good reason. If it deals with traditional areas where the states are the ones then that have the power, health, safety, welfare, and morality, it is up to the states to decide. If Jeff Sessions, the Attorney General of the United States, thinks marijuana is, a gateway drug to hell, I don't care. Mm-hmm. If California wants to legalize marijuana, the federal government can't stop it. This case, the case that happened to go to the Supreme Court first, is the state wants to legalize sports betting in New Jersey. Why should the federal government tell the states what they can't do with something that's going on in New Jersey that deals with health, safety, welfare, and morality?
Stick around. We'll be right back with more Turnpike Sports. Ever since we started this show, people have been asking for advice. Usually it's what team to bet on this week. You got the Patriots or Steelers, Chicago, Detroit. Well, let me tell you this. Where you're betting at is just as important as who you're betting on. So that's why I tell people to go to mybookie.ag. Use promo code PIKE, P-I-K-E, for up to a 100% deposit bonus. There are a lot of online sports books out there. MyBookie.ag is the only one that gets my stamp of approval, and I don't give that out lightly. To get my endorsement, I've got to personally use them, and that means they have to be the best. And MyBookie.ag is by far the best sportsbook I've used. The rep is rock solid. They do 100% cash bonuses, so off the bat you're making money for doing nothing. And they have the fastest payouts. Seriously, just 2 business days. It's no different from betting in a glitzy Las Vegas casino, but you can do it right from your smartphone. Go to MyBookie.ag to place your bets and tell them I sent you by using promo code PIKE. Get over there and get the best odds anywhere. Welcome back to Turnpike Sports. For those of you just joining us, I am talking with I. Nelson Rose, professor, author, lawyer, and gambling law expert. I want to ask you about your opinion on the Trump administration stance on this. Through the Solicitor General, the administration has filed a couple of memos to the Supreme Court. The first one early on saying, hey, you shouldn't even review this case. And the second one is supporting the sports leagues and the NCAA. What has been the Solicitor General's argument with regard to PASPA and sports betting?
Well, they're basically saying this is not an important case, so just ignore it. And the lower courts, it is not an important case on its face. Nobody cares about sports betting, except, of course, the people in New Jersey, and the sports teams and people who want to bet. But they don't care. The courts don't care about gambling. The problem is the way it was created, it got into the court system, brings up all these much bigger issues. And the Trump administration,
and interestingly enough, wasn't his sister one of the appeals judges in the Philadelphia court that struck it down?
Yes, I mean the weird thing was his sister was on the Court of Appeals. The former wife of Ed Randell, the governor of Pennsylvania, was on the Court of Appeals. I mean, it was really a weird. They should have all just been excluded. Certainly Trump's sister.
Sure.
But the problem is that the way the lower courts handled this, by going so extreme, by saying that the federal government can tell the states, you can't change your laws, that the conservatives on the Supreme Court don't want the federal government to have that kind of power. They believe in states' rights. And the liberals on the Supreme Court don't want this Congress to have that kind of power. For the Trump administration, his lawyers are stuck in a real problem. They can go states' rights, but that means, states' rights, does that mean a state can legalize marijuana and abortion and birth control? But if the federal government has all the power, so can the federal government not only tell New Jersey it can't have sports betting, it can tell Nevada you can't have internet gambling. That's the problem with taking an extremist view. And frankly, I don't see that the conservatives can win on this. Mm-hmm. Because if you believe in states' rights or you're a libertarian, then you have to say, the states can do pretty much anything, and people have the right to do anything. Well, that means they have the right to do abortions. I mean, why, or at least birth control. I mean, why can the states and individuals have all sorts of rights, except for the ones that you conservative right-wing religious nuts have decided are ones that we're going to impose our views on everyone. So it's a mess.
It is.
Now, I can tell you there is the possibility that the Supreme Court will dodge the issue. Mm-hmm. One way, an easy way out, the easiest way is to say New Jersey is regulating. We're not saying, Congress isn't saying that New Jersey can't eliminate all the laws. Yeah, they could eliminate all the laws against sports betting, but they didn't do that. They limited it to racetracks and casinos, and we know those are regulated. The mob can't set up a sports book in a New Jersey casino. They would be stopped because the land is regulated, the place is regulated. The other thing they can do, the Supreme Court could say equal sovereignty, kind of like equal rights, which is this statute, PASPA, this federal law, is unconstitutional because it discriminates against the state of New Jersey. Why can Nevada have sports betting and not New Jersey? Once you make an exception for one state, you have to make exceptions for all the states, and then they avoid the big issue of limitations on the power of the federal government to tell states what they can and can't do.
I want to get into the review process of the U.S. Supreme Court. And now, it's an appeals court, which means they can only look at the facts of the underlying case. But a lot has happened with the professional league since this case has started. The NFL will move a team to Vegas. The NHL already has a team in Vegas. Major League Soccer will have a team in Vegas. The WNBA, which is owned by the NBA, is going to Vegas. What effect, if any, of these actions by the professional sports leagues will have on the ruling of the court?
Well, Dave, you're absolutely right. The first thing is it's a court of appeals, so they can't look at any new facts. On the other hand, these are 9 human beings on the U.S. Supreme Court. They read the newspapers. They also read the briefs that actually come out and say that kind of thing, like the commissioner of the NBA has come out in favor of sports betting. So they have to know that in the back of their minds, the argument that this is horrible for organized sports is undercut by the fact that organized sports is now pretty much in favor of it. They certainly are in favor of fantasy sports.
Oh, sure. Absolutely.
Yeah. So that, yes, they can.
There are actual NFL owners who have stakes in fantasy sports leagues. So
that's right.
They're more in favor of it. They're actually making money off it.
Right, exactly. But let's stick with true sports betting. Mm-hmm. You have organized professional basketball coming out 100% in favor of it. So that it can be raised because the issue of whether this was dangerous to organized sports was brought up. Again, why is the federal government involved in this? Why did Congress pass PASPA, this federal statute, preventing the states from legalizing sports betting, except for, and by the way, the number is actually close to a dozen states that have sports betting. Highlight, for example, is not included there. Mm-hmm. The sports betting in states like Wyoming and North Dakota, people don't think about it. They've had sports betting for decades. And they still have sports betting.
Sure. So I was just in Delaware. When you think sports betting, you really don't think of Delaware, but you can sports bet in Delaware.
Absolutely. So,
Oregon, yeah.
I was actually the legal consultant to, it turns out the sports books in Delaware are under the control of the Delaware State Lottery. So the Delaware State Lottery hired me to advise them on what the tax rate should be. So if you don't like that, and what I realized is every time any state legalizes a new form of gambling, they always look around, find out what the highest tax is in the nation, and then make it higher for their new gambling. And I advise strongly against that. I mean, if you get over 50% tax, then the operators say, it's not us, it's the state that owns and runs the game. So the problem was, in Delaware, because of this Professional and Amateur Sports Protection Act, they weren't allowed to have straight-up sports betting. They had to run it as a parlay because it's technically under the state lottery. And unfortunately, they didn't bring me in on that case because I think there was a way to get around that. And by the way, the history of this federal law, the Professional and Amateur Sports Protection Act, was that the state lotteries in the very early 1990s had discovered sports betting. So they operated a parlay game in Delaware and one in Oregon. And Bill Bradley, the former professional basketball player who was in the U.S. Senate in New Jersey, said, I hate this. Let's pass a law that says states can't legalize anything new. They grandfathered in everything was up. Well, there were about 10 states at the time that had various forms of sports betting, and they still can continue. So you end up with a situation where Delaware has casinos and sports betting. New Jersey has only casinos. And I've talked to a lot of the casino executives in New Jersey, and they hate the fact that Delaware is putting up signs that say, why are you going to Atlantic City? Come to Delaware. We not only have casinos, just like Atlantic City, we also have sports betting. And it's hard to understand why the Congress, the President, the Attorney General, why the federal government has any role in this.
Mm-hmm. Well, I want to ask you something very recently. Pennsylvania signed a bill into law expanding their gambling within the state, and one of the provisions of the new law provides for sports betting. So obviously the state is preparing for a ruling that will occur very soon. If there is a ruling in favor of New Jersey, will the floodgates open to sports betting throughout the country very soon? Because it seems the states are getting geared up for it.
If the decision comes down the way I think, which is they're going to say this PASPA is unconstitutional, that the states can legalize sports betting, yes. Pennsylvania will have it. It already passed one of, I think it was the state Senate in California. Then it died in the state assembly because the court cases in New Jersey started coming down. The problem is, what is the court going to say in the details? And the details are really important because, for example, what New Jersey did is it didn't legalize sports betting and regulate it. It decriminalized it. It simply said there are literally no laws, no regulations, nothing that prevents sports betting as long as you're in an Atlantic City casino or a racetrack in New Jersey. That's crazy. And does that mean that Pennsylvania, for example, can say, okay, we've just eliminated all of our laws against sports betting? And I guess as long as you're in one of their casinos, does that mean, the mob can set up a sports book? It certainly means I could go up to you in an Atlantic City casino and say, yeah, I want to take your bets. And here I am. Maybe just go put a sign around your neck saying I'm a bookie. I mean, it's nuts. The best ruling, and the one that would really open the floodgates, would be to say this statute is unconstitutional because of that equal sovereignty idea, equal rights for states themselves. If Nevada can have licensed and regulated sports betting, New Jersey can have it, Pennsylvania can have it. If they go any other way, it's going to be a mess. And probably, oh my God, I just realized, probably what would happen is Congress would have to act very fast. And this Congress, with the Republicans in charge of the Senate and the House, this Congress doesn't do anything. They don't pass any laws at all. How are they going to be able to pass a law dealing with sports betting which brings up the big issues of states' rights and the conservatives' idea of imposing their morality.
I was just about to bring that up again. This goes far beyond the gambling world. This ripples throughout state right issues, as you mentioned. What I guess medical marijuana, abortion, everything,
birth control,
marriage. Even
marriage. I don't now. They're okay. We know with the Republicans in charge of the House and Senate, no bills get passed, but they do believe in imposing. There is this religious right that wants to impose this morality on people. So, abortion, they have no problem in passing restrictions on abortion, even though those tend to be unconstitutional, and then they get knocked down, and then they pass another one. The right-wing morality seems to be that, okay, we want to tell people what they can and can't do in the privacy of their own bedroom and at the wedding altar, and if it deals with women's reproductive rights. They don't, for the most part, care anymore about gambling. So it's possible they might be able to get a states' rights bill through that specifically amends the federal PASPA and says states can legalize sports betting and they can regulate it. But then you get the power of the NFL coming in, and perhaps big donors like Sheldon Adelson. Mm-hmm. I don't know how he feels about sports betting. He clearly is against
he doesn't like online gambling. Yeah, no, he's an opponent of online gambling.
And he's the biggest donor in the history of the United States, and he gives, to Republicans. So, and we know, by the way, this has now been proven that big donors decide the legislature in the United States. That it is not what the people want. Hell, if it was what the people wanted, there would be gun control after elementary school children were massacred in Sandy Hook, right? So it's not what the people want, it's what the big donors want. And the big donors, well, the NFL is, I don't know what they want anymore. I mean, they used to be 100% against sports betting. Now, maybe they're thinking, hey, if we get more sports betting, we get more viewers. So maybe Congress could react to this.
Nelson, we're running out of time, but I want to give you a chance to give your website out so people can read the articles on this subject and other great articles you have written. Oh, well, thank you so much. Yes, it's gamblingandthelaw.com, all 4 words spelled out in full, and gamblingandthelaw.com. And I also act as a consultant and expert witness for governments and industry, including big bettors. Okay. Well, Nelson Rose, as always, you've taken a complicated subject and made it more understandable. Thanks, Nelson. Thank you. Great talking with you. Great talking with you. Stick around. We'll be back with more Turnpike Sports.
Have you ever wanted something so bad that you do just about anything for it? Well, that's exactly how we feel about you. That's right. AdamandEve.com wants you so bad. We're giving you 10 free gifts with your first order. You heard me right. That's 10 free gifts to spice up your love life. First, you'll get a sexy surprise for her. Second, an adventurous toy for him. And third, a little something we know you'll both enjoy. Plus, you'll get 6 full-length adult movies on DVD. And number 10, free shipping on your entire order. That's 10 free gifts for you shy types who've never tried Adam and Eve before. Just go to adamandeve.com and select any one item. It could be an adventurous new toy, a sexy piece of lingerie, or anything you desire. Just enter offer code BABE16 at checkout, and you'll get all 10 free gifts, including free shipping. That's offer code BABE16. That's BABE 16 at adamandeve.com.
We'll get back to the show in a few moments, but I just wanted to take some time and tell everyone about Bean Genius, the smart specialty coffee subscription service. Bean Genius sells freshly roasted coffee from some of the best independent coffee roasters in the country. They feature over 2,000 specialty coffee blends, all at your fingertips at beangenius.com. Here's how it works. Head on over to beangenius.com and take their palate profiler test to find out what coffee best fits your taste. Then select from a variety of subscription plans. Every subscription comes with free shipping, and delivery can even be scheduled for once or twice each month. And based upon your review of each coffee blend you try, Bean Genius actually learns your individual taste preferences and then suggests future coffee blends for you. And now you can get 10% off your Bean Genius subscription when you use our promo code PIKE at checkout. Bean Genius offers a variety of subscription plans to suit any coffee lover's needs. Subscribe with Bean Genius today and start enjoying some of the best tasting coffee around. And save 10% off your coffee plan with promo code PIKE.
The following segment on Turnpike Sports is intended for entertainment purposes only. Please bet with your head, not over it. Problem gambler? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Welcome back to Turnpike Sports. You know, every week for our pick section, we are lucky enough to have Simon Chokoisky, the author of Gambler's Dharma, Sports Betting with Vedic Astrology. And be sure to check out Simon's website at spirittype.com. Hey, Simon, how you doing?
Hey, great to be back. I'm doing good. How about yourself?
Oh, great.
Hey, Simon, welcome back to the show.
Hey, Doug. How are you?
So Simon, last week, we talked a little off air, but last week you gave us quarterbacks that we should look for our fantasy teams. And I took your advice on a couple of them, Russell Wilson and Jared Goff. And you know what? I came out a winner this week in my fantasy teams. So, again, thank you.
That's awesome.
Yeah, no.
Well, that's awesome.
No,
to be honest with you, I thought I whiffed it on Wilson.
No.
But
The league I'm a part of, Russell Wilson got 25.58 points, and Jared Goff got 28.44 points, which were astronomically high. Get my joke there? Astronomically high points for my fantasy team. So, again, thank you. You nailed it.
Awesome. Well, yeah, you're welcome. And I saw the first half of that Seattle game, and I thought, oh, my God, what have I done? And luckily, my other two picks were, if you recall, the Jared Goff, and I also like Derek Carr. Derek Carr was middle of the road. He did okay. He was respectable, threw for 300 yards, but wasn't great. But Jared Goff, he had that amazing. I think he was the top-rated quarterback last week at 146.8. I think was his rating. So we did okay. We did pretty well, and I really had a strong hit on those three guys. Like those were my top. The top two, Derek Carr and Jared, and Russell Wilson also was up there. So I'm glad you did well.
Oh, it was great. Thank you.
You know, we should have found you a long time ago to help with all our fantasy picks for the last couple of years. But, you're here now, and you're saving our butts throughout the season here. So it's actually a pretty good job you're doing for us. We appreciate that.
Well, okay, so this is a dangerous setup now from what I'm about to tell you, because this week I don't have that kind of standout one or two quarterbacks that I can say, listen, here they are. I'm standing by these guys. They're going to do awesome.
Well, see, that's even good to know. That kind of thing is good to know because, in fantasy, you spend your money somewhere else. You go to a running back. You go to or something like that.
And so, you know what? There's never a sure thing in any of these things. So you're just reinforcing everybody's feeling that sometimes it's luck, sometimes it's something else. So it's one of those things where even every week there's going to be something different that's going to basically throw some people off. And, that's what it is.
Well, I appreciate you saying that. And it's just, I kind of scratched my head this week, and I'm looking at, is this guy better than this guy? And I'm sure, the cream's going to rise to the top, and there's going to be, top performers. But I just don't have a super handle on them. But what I do have is I've looked at some of the matchups. And so I've looked at, for example, the LA Chargers are playing at Jacksonville.
Okay.
And Jacksonville currently is about a 3.5 point favorite. And to be honest with you, I like Phillip Rivers, the matchup against, I think it's Blake Bartles or something like that. I like Phillip Rivers in this one.
Okay.
What is it?
It's Blake
and I
Bortles.
like the underdog, Bortles, right. And so I think the Chargers, who are the dogs, are going to beat the spread in this game. And I think, and partly because I think Phillip Rivers will have a decent game. I think he matches up well against Blake. So I'm kind of giving a half and half pick here, maybe half of a sports pick and then half of a fantasy pick. I don't know that Phillip Rivers will be like the top performer, but I think he matches up well in this game, and he'll do better than Blake. And as a result, the Chargers should cover the spread, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. Cool.
Okay. Wait, can I ask you, before we get into the other games, was there an overriding theme in the charts this week? I remember a couple weeks ago, something with Pluto that favored the underdogs. Did you see a trend this week?
You know what? I don't, and that's why it's difficult to come up with a salient point. I don't know if I gave this example on the air a couple weeks ago, but do you ever watch that Princess Bride movie? Do you know when they go? I know this is an old reference.
No, that's okay. We're old guys.
We're old guys, and hey, it's a great movie.
It is.
Whatever, right? And so when they go into that forest, and there are these fire spouts, and I forget what the name of the forest is, but there's this little sound, a popping sound that happens, pop, 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 and then this fire will explode.
Okay, yeah, I remember that. Yeah,
and so remember that?
Yeah,
and
I
so
absolutely.
Once they learn that those little fire geysers are preceded by a popping sound, well, you can predict that thing is going to come up, and then you can avoid it.
Okay.
So what I'm looking for in the chart is that popping sound. So when it comes up, I can predict, hey, this team is going to do well, or hey, this team is going to suck. So what's missing this week is I don't hear that popping sound. I don't see those signs, and so it's more difficult for me to judge, hey, who's going to do well, who's going to crash and burn, as it were. So I don't know if that analogy makes sense. It's
you're basically just calling the entire fantasy landscape and sports betting landscape the fire swamps.
That's it. Yeah, it's the fire swamps.
Hey, and if you survive, you feel like a hero, and if you don't, you feel like, you just got your I don't know if I can say that on the air, but you got singed.
As long as you don't run into the rats of unusual sizes, the ROUSS.
Yes, the ROUSS. Oh, good. See, okay, you remember that. Awesome.
I remember that movie. I was just watching it recently, so it's one of my favorites. I always watch it. All right.
So anyway, no popping sound this week, and so I'm gonna give you my best, what I think is my best, and maybe next week when I have some clear winners, either in the running, I'll look at all of them: running backs, wide receivers, quarterbacks, and if I have a clear winner, I'll let you guys know.
Okay, and the next game you have?
All right, so the next game is just next door. So the Jets are playing at Tampa, same time. Not too far away in Florida, right? St. Petersburg or Tampa, wherever they play. And so the results should be similar, if this astrology stuff works. Now, it is, a couple hundred miles away, but the charts should be pretty similar, which means that the underdog, in this case Tampa, should beat the spread. And Tampa's quarterback, Ryan Fitzpatrick, should outperform Josh McCown, I believe.
Mm-hmm. You know, as a Jet fan, I hate you right now, but thank you.
Sorry. By the way, I have loved the Jets the last few weeks. I know I haven't said it on the air, but I really like their chances. Even when they lost, a couple weeks ago, they played super well. And I thought, and in looking at their charts, I thought, God, the Jets really have spirit. They have fight. And I didn't even watch the games. I just saw the scores. But is that the case? Are they playing? I mean, do they have fire and spirit, and are they playing well?
They have fire and spirit. Speaking? They have fire and spirit up until the fourth quarter. But you know, the last game they played last week was they actually played a complete game, which was nice to see. And you know what? When you said you loved the Jets for the last couple of weeks and didn't say it on the air, not a lot of people will say it publicly that they love the Jets. So I appreciate that.
Okay, well, I do.
By the way, you mentioned fire and spirit. If you Google the Jets, the last game they played, they were so excited that when the stereo played in the stadium, the entire Jets defense on the field started dancing. And you can Google that, and it's interesting you said fire and spirit, but they were all dancing on the field.
And the thing is, you got to love that, because even if they lose, like they put their heart out there, like they left it on the field, and
Absolutely.
You have no regret.
Absolutely.
Win or loss, like I earned my paycheck that day, and I love that. I love watching that. Like I will cheer for that. I don't care if they're my team or not.
It's always nice to see that kind of attitude out there. So
Oh my God, yeah, that's what makes the game fun. But where I was going was this is a game of numbers, right? And wins and losses, and people, they want to know who's going to win, who's going to lose. So from that vantage point, that's why I haven't necessarily backed them in my predictions. But anyway, so this week, look, I think that fire and spirit and inspiration often trumps prediction. Especially, there is such a thing as grace, I believe. I think the Houston Astros won because of it. Think about this. When Katrina hit New Orleans won the Super Bowl.
Yeah, that's
hurricane,
true. That's true.
Houston wins the World Series. There is an element of nature takes something from you and gives it back in another way. And I had the Dodgers as a slight advantage, but that game 6, I think that they won 13-12 that the Houston won. In my mind, that was pure grace, and that you can't predict. And so you got to leave it open for grace. So I'm going to put the Chargers over beating the spread at Jacksonville. And technically, on paper, Tampa should beat the spread against the Jets. So the Jets could still win by a point. But I think the spread is 1.5 at this point, or 2 points, something like that.
It's 2.5, I think.
Oh, 2.5. There you go. So I think Tampa should beat the spread, but there is such a thing as grace, and the Jets could walk away with it. So, but again, the quarterbacks, I do like Fitzpatrick to do a little bit better than Josh McCown in this game.
Okay. Now we're running a little short on time. I don't mean to rush you through the next one or two things that you have.
No worries.
If you want to just blow right through them, go right ahead.
I'll tell you what. Maybe this is why I'm stalling, because I don't have that much. Let's see. Giants versus San Francisco. This is tough. I'll tell you one thing. Brock Osweiler had a terrible. I think he had a terrible week last week. He was the bottom-rated quarterback of all of them. I'm just looking at their ratings. New England is playing Denver this week, and I'm not saying Denver's going to win, but I think Brock is going to redeem himself.
I hope so.
Okay?
I really hope so, because he needs a win. He needs a win.
He needs a win, and I'm rooting for him, and I think he's going to redeem himself this week. So I'll end it with that, and I will put up my picks and maybe a couple of extras that I didn't talk about on the blog.
Beautiful. And just for our listeners, as always, Simon's picks are going to be put up on the Turnpike Sports blog. Head on over to turnpikesportsradio.com, click on the blog link, and they'll be up there for you for everyone to take a look at. And I also want to remind everyone to pick up Simon's book, Gambler's Dharma, Sports Betting with Vedic Astrology by Simon Chokoisky, and be sure to check out his amazing website at spirittype.com. Talk to you later, Simon.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate you having me. Take care.
Have a good one, Simon.
And that'll do it for us, too. See you out in the Turnpike, everyone.